when we come to our construction sector, in UK, the construction sector plays a key role in the economy. So we have about 3 million people that is working in the construction sector, and that's the equivalent of 10% of all employment in UK, which is quite considerable percentage compared to other industries and sectors. And it contributes to the economy around between 90 billion to 110, 120 billion on average each year. We have, because of the fragmentation, we'll talk about that in a bit, we have about 280,000 companies and businesses in the construction sector, from very small SMEs and very global big organizations. Now, there have been negative perceptions on the construction industry for quite some time. And there are some characteristics which contribute to that. Fragmentation is one of these issues. And that led to, for example, low investment in research and development. If we compare, for example, the construction industry expenditure of R&D to the pharmaceutical industry, we find that in year 2005, for example, the expenditure was 33 million pounds compared to 3.3 billion pounds in the pharmaceutical industry. And when we look at the size of the industry, the construction sector contribute 5 to 10% to GDP, and the pharmaceutical industry only contribute 0.8%. So there is an issue. There is an issue with the construction sector investments and in R&D and in innovation. There are other characteristics, the adversarial relationship with the different stakeholders. The processes pretty much uncoordinated if we compare it also to other sectors within the whole of the supply chain. And also we have what we call the blame culture within the construction industry. And here it's also about how we distribute and manage risk. So we want to dump risk. If everyone want to dump the risk on the other, and then we create the blame culture. Also, this negative perception related to poor capturing of clients' needs and requirements. When we come to the projects in the industry, we always find problems in capturing project requirements and needs and to serve the objectives of our clients. Integration of information is pretty much problematic. New methods, as you know, recently with the digital technologies and BIM and others, improving that situation. But for the history of construction, we always have that problem. Also communication, we have communication problem between the different project stakeholders, and that also jeopardize the perception of the industry. Now, for quite some time in different countries, stakeholders, government bodies, the private sector as well, they looked at the change and how can we improve the situation of the construction sector. And in UK, we used to have so many initiatives, and these started actually after the Second World War, if you like. Government initiatives and evaluation of the construction sector, and they are trying to mitigate these problems and find appropriate solutions for these problems. These are some of the examples. So you can see here, actually they started in the 1950s, even before this one, and then the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s into the 2000. Every now and then the government launch an initiative to look at the construction sector and the challenges facing the construction sector for improvement. And if we look at this history, we see main two paradigms, if you like. So in the earlier initiatives and reports, government reports, the focus more or less on client needs, the focus on how we integrate the construction process, especially the design and construction, and how we improve performance and how we establish benchmarking for performance. So it's about process improvement. But recent years, during the last couple of decades, if you like, or a little bit more, from the 90s, there was a paradigm shift of the emphasis. The emphasis now more towards sustainable construction. We look at climate change and the issues around that, and net zero and decarbonization of the economy and the sector. Digitalization is a big issue now as well, and also more and more powerful, informed, intelligent and experienced clients are demanding a better value from the construction process. Competition also growing globally, and especially here in Middle East, we clearly see that contractors from all over the world competing with each other severely in the Middle East, and this is big contractors from Europe, from China, India, from US, Canada, Australia, and the competition is pretty high here. Also, intelligent buildings and the use more recently of AI in construction and other sectors also increasing. Now, when we look at the government strategies and initiatives in a little bit more detail, we can look at some examples like the 2011 strategy and also the 2025. We will look at that also in a minute. So the idea is that who is going to play the key role in leading innovation in construction? And there is pretty much an agreement that the influential clients can have the most important role in leading innovation and creativity in the construction sector. Now, in many countries, the government and government departments, they represent the biggest customer or clients to the construction industry. In UK, for example, 40% of annual expenditure in construction come from public sector and infrastructure projects, like as I said earlier, between around the 100 billion pounds. But the government and public bodies, they think that they are not getting good value for money. And there is a mechanism for this actually developed by the UK government. And also, they think that the different government departments and ministries, they fail to exploit that potential of public procurement to drive growth and to drive innovation as well. So the strategy, they think that the public sector needs to become a better client and needs to be more informed, more skilled, so that they will be able to drive the change needed, especially when it comes to procurement and dealing with the supply chain. They also they want to challenge the business model of the construction sector. There are different reports by NAO and other, which is the National Audit Office UK, and other bodies within the government, which are trying to come up with ideas of how to improve and change the business model and the procurement process for construction. They also looked in different reports at the adversarial culture within the industry, and they are looking for a more collaborative culture. And they look also at the contractual arrangements and how contracts and standard forms of contracts, international standard forms of contracts, may also have an impact on that, like the comparisons between the FIDIC and the NEC types of contracts, for example. And we will look at more details in a minute about the demand for cost reduction and the strong demand for innovation in the construction sector. So for the agenda of innovation, actually, they looked at new procurement models, and there are more collaborative models compared to other traditional procurement systems like integrated project delivery, PPP, PFI. They came since the 90s. They came. I think the UK government came up with the innovative ideas actually about private finance initiatives and public-private partnerships developed later after that. So, and also look at the whole of the supply chain and how we can integrate the supply chain. Also, they looked at the digitalization of the construction industry, and they developed during the last couple of decades the BIM maturity models, and they looked at achieving maturity level 2 by the year 2016, and they managed to do that actually. They managed to achieve that, the mandatory level 2 maturity model of BIM application in the public sector. They also looked at the sustainability within the construction industry, and one of the biggest polluter actually is construction and the built environment, if you like. So the government came up with different policies on that. We will look at some examples just briefly, touch upon them, and decarbonization of different sectors, including the construction industry. And the challenges now, which is clear, one of them, as I just said, 50% of UK carbon emissions from the built environment. This is just half of what carbon emissions in UK, which, and also it's more or less similar kind of figures around the world, between 40% and so. And they have a mandate of cutting carbon emission by 80%, this based on regulations, UK regulations, by 2020. Unfortunately, that hasn't been met, but they produced more recent targets for 2025, 2050, going hand in hand with EU legislation. Obviously, now we came out of EU with the Brexit arrangements, but still they have also good targets. They met some of these targets actually, UK, but not all of them. So these are some of the examples for sustainable construction and other legislations and regulations for during the years. And these examples just after 2007 and onwards, we have different legislations and regulations and parliament acts as well. So this is another driver. So we talked about the client as a driver, but another driver to meet these challenges and improve the innovative solutions and processes for construction is the legislations and policies as well. It will play a good role in creating more innovative solutions. Then we move to Construction 2025 strategy. They set up this strategy, both collaborating between the government and the private sector. There are very ambitious targets, actually, as you see here. It's a very good document, but still implementation is an issue, as we all know. They want to lower construction costs by a third. This is a big target, actually. They want to reduce delivery time by half. This is amazing target. They want to lower emissions by 50%, and they also want to be more competitive in exporting construction services by UK contractors and consulting organizations worldwide, and they want to improve that by 50%. And the competition actually is getting higher and higher, especially from the Far East. But we face the reality, and actually they conducted a review in the construction industry, and they found that actually 2/3 of construction organizations, they are not innovative at all, and this is a very harsh reality, but it is the case. So how can we change that? 2/3 of companies are not involved in innovation. And there are factors, there are reasons which we are going to touch upon some of them. But there are also some drivers for change from the government side and hopefully from the private sector. So what are these barriers? The procurement issue. So there is a problem of collaboration between the client and the rest of the supply chain, especially in the early stages. So, and if we are saying that the client is going to play a key role in driving innovation, and the client is cut off, especially during the early stages where the most important decisions are made, then there will be a problem. How can the client stimulate and lead the change and the innovation targets? There is an issue about innovation itself. Companies are not that much confident that innovation will be commercially viable. And they have so much issues because the profit margin average in UK and many of the Western countries is very low and very tight. So companies' perception is that innovation is going to add up to the costs, and that is another barrier. They also face an issue of financing and funding innovation and creative solutions in design or in construction or in processes as well. So the funders are also skeptical about that and not very encouraged to fund and finance that, and they think that this comes with high risk as well, and insurance also another issue, and so they are looking for support from the government for that. There is another barrier about that we are not very good so far about capturing and learning from successful innovations in previous projects. And this is an issue about organizational learning and knowledge management. And I remember I participated in some UK government-funded research in the late 90s and early 2000s, looking at how construction contractors and construction consultants develop knowledge management systems within their organizations to capture these lessons learned and also develop their organizational learning. The collaboration between industry and academia and research implementation is also another problem. So even if some research institutes or universities or R&D departments within the private sector come up with some outputs, it's still difficult to implement in practice and commercialize it. So based on these barriers, and they did good job in evaluating them for construction 2025 strategy. They would like professionals, academia, and research communities to work together to inspire and bring more implementable and applicable research so that they improve the situation with creative and innovative processes and products, and in the material side, in all aspects of the construction sector. They also want to look at the existing technologies and make the most use of them in addition to emerging technologies. Another target is to remove these barriers, to sort out and find solutions for these barriers. Some of these solutions, the lead will come from the government, but some of them, also the private sector, they need to take the lead as well. And also there is another issue of good research output, which they don't find the way into the implementation in the industry. They want to improve the visibility, if you like, and the access to these research and development outputs so that more innovative solutions will be implemented and adopted. There are also more recent research, if you like, and more recent initiatives supported by the UK government. And I will just touch upon some of them to give you example. One of them is this industry strategy, which they produced construction sector deal. They looked at different case studies, real projects, and they come up with this is ongoing actually, but they produced some reports on what they have achieved and done so far. For example, they are looking to deliver better performing buildings. If they need to do that, then they need, for example, more innovative solutions for design, for example. They need to look at the duration and time frame for these projects. They need to look at the cost. They would like to lower energy use and reduce bills. And unfortunately, recently, during the last year or so, we are facing the whole of the world, and especially in Europe, we are facing this problem of energy due to the recent events and developments taking place. But here we go. We try to come up with solutions, but sometimes we face even more challenging issues. They want to look at creating better jobs and to develop better skills. We also in UK have shortage of skills in some aspects and parts of the construction industry. For quite some time, the government looked at better value for the taxpayer for the infrastructure projects, and during the years they came up with different solutions for that, but it still needs improvement with more innovative solutions. And they want to be more competitive globally. They may, and the research indicated that the target of the construction sector is around 2.5 trillion for infrastructure globally, and they want to have a good chunk of that, if you like, good share of it. As I said earlier, the competition is so high, and it's even getting higher all the time. So to achieve these goals, they look at digitalization, technologies and techniques. They want to achieve these targets through digitalization, and there are quite in-depth analysis on that. They want to look at off-site manufacturing and how that will come up with more creative and innovative initiatives and solutions. And they want to look at the whole life asset performance, not just the capital invested, and they want to look at that performance and what is the value within the whole life of the asset. Another initiative, the Construction Innovation Hub, and this initiative brought together around 600 different organizations, private sector, public sector, policymakers, academics. They brought all of them together, which is quite a good number, and they are trying to drive construction innovation by addressing the performance and productivity challenges. Also, for quite some time in UK, we have an issue of construction productivity. Even when we compare it to Germany and France, we are lagging behind. So we need real innovative solutions for that. This initiative, it is ongoing. They just a few months ago produced a platform rule book and framework to improve processes and to address some of these challenges, which is also a handy milestone, and it's ongoing. Another initiative, the Active Building Center. This aims to transform the sector and energy sectors as well by advancing best practices and net zero carbon technology for buildings. They also developing some frameworks for integrating energy systems, and they came up with this 3 C's new framework for buildings, which is comfort, cost, and carbon. And the figure here, I'm not sure if you can see the details of it, but they are addressing different aspects for comfort, different aspects for cost, and different aspects for the carbon emissions to improve the situation. This is another initiative, the Network Plus and Plus. Also, academia, practitioners, government representatives, they come together to look at future policies and practices. They address the future by realizing the potential of how we will be able to integrate off-site manufacturing, digital design, and energy technologies. So they have some detailed work on that, and they also look at how to transform the design, the construction stage, and the how to power our built environment, our buildings, how to manage the whole process as well. So they are looking at different aspects here as well. Okay, the last section I would like to go through just an example. I will go through it quickly because I'm just looking at the time as well. So I would like to go through one example. Actually, there are different some examples, but I will go through only one. That is the Millennium Bridge. If you heard about it, there were different projects at the turn of the century to celebrate the beginning of the 21st century in UK. One of them is this Millennium Bridge. It's the first bridge built on the Thames for many years, actually. And it's a pedestrian bridge. There are some innovative design solutions for the bridge. We would like to look at them. These are just statistics of some of the dimensions and the architects and the contractors. So here, the innovation, one of the innovation in this bridge actually is the lateral suspension, so that this engineering solution, innovative engineering solution, allow us to build bridges, suspension bridges, without the need of very tall supporting piers or columns. So the suspension will be lateral suspension, which is a very innovative design solution. And there is a reason for that, actually, because the architects, they have a concept for the design that they want to see this bridge from both sides of the Thames as a blade of light. So that is the concept of the design, and that's why they can't build these very tall columns, and they come up with this. They came up with this solution, lateral suspension. Okay, now with innovation and very creative solutions, we also face some risks. So unfortunately, there was a hiccup for this. I skipped many of the details just for the sake of time here. So the bridge opened in June 2000, and unfortunately, there were so many people very eager to be amongst the first to walk this bridge, and that created wobbly bridge, and they nicknamed the bridge afterwards the wobbly bridge, actually. So the bridge started to sway and twist both, so swaying side and twisting as well, and that was a real embarrassment at the time, but because it was very creative, very innovative design solution, as we expect that there will be some risks which needed to be dealt with. Okay, so what happened after that? They came up with 3 different proposals for modifying the design. 2 of them were rejected because they will jeopardize the concept design, that they need the bridge to look at a blade of light over the Thames. So the bridge opened on the 6th of June, and 6 days later it was closed because of that problem. And they came up with these 3 different proposals. And the innovative solution for this innovative problem was to have some damming mechanisms under the deck of the bridge. And they put there 2 different types of dammers, and these are just like the shock absorbers of any car. So huge shock absorbers, they put them under the bridge, some of them throughout the deck and some of them against the top of the columns and near the deck, and that created the innovative solution, but at the same time not jeopardizing the aesthetics of the bridge and the design philosophy of the blade of light. So then the bridge opened about 8 months later, after they have done the design, redesign, and the analysis, and then the construction of these shock absorbers, installment of them. So these 2 figures on the right shows the situation before and after. So you can see the shock absorbers underneath the deck. And this example actually gives us an indication of, yes, we need to be innovative, we need to be creative, but with that come challenges, risks, and opportunities as well at the same time. So how can we deal with all of that when it comes to construction innovation? It is what we need to sort out. Okay. And thank you very much for listening and attending this webinar, and I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you have any comments or ideas or questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Elhag. That was indeed a very interesting presentation, and I'm sure there are a lot of questions coming up. So I'm going to reach out to our audience, and please open your mic and ask your questions. Well, while people are thinking about their questions, let me put in mine first. And so it was really interesting. It's particularly the very creative and innovative ideas that are being worked out in UK. Particularly and ambitious as well, particularly the cost and schedule reduction. And that reminds me, a few years ago, we did a research project for CII, the Construction Industry Institute, looking at radical reduction in project cycle time. And we were able to cut it down to 50% in terms of schedule and also cost. But there was, of course, and you mentioned that too, there's going to be a trade-off, right? And that was possible only with team alignment and only on specific projects where you could, put your A team together and get the job done, but not possible in all circumstances. At least that was the conclusion at that time. So I was wondering that, the ambitious goal that UK government has put forward, what do you see in terms of some of the barriers, and you did mention a few, in achieving these radical cost reduction project after project?
Yeah, actually, this is a good point. And actually, this point, if we trace it, it's always an issue, especially during the 90s when, so in 1994, the government came up with the Latham report, and 1998, that was the conservative government. And then 1998, the Labour government, they conducted the initiative of the Egan report. And since then, they started talking about cost reduction with big amounts. Third cost reduction was 30%, and now they're talking about 33%. You see, this cost reduction, actually, I discussed this in different conferences and in different events. When we talk about cost reduction, first of all, what do we mean by cost reduction? Because where is that reduction is coming from? This is a very important point. The profit margin already squeezed, so we have it around 2% in most of the European Western countries. Now, when we talk about cost reduction, first of all, where is it coming from, that reduction, and who is benefiting from it? So who's getting the benefit of the cost reduction? We are talking here about the whole supply chain, all the stakeholders. Are we going to say that all of these stakeholders are going to benefit from this cost reduction, or is it just the client? And if that is the case, what kind of incentives the rest of the supply chain will have for that cost reduction? And because to establish that kind of cost reduction, you also need to put in some funding and finance. You need to have some budget so that that will enable you for this cost reduction. Well, these are not easy issues to address, but yes, with more creative solutions, with different construction methods, more improved, with the streamlining of processes, we will achieve that kind of cost reduction. But will that increase the profit margin for the contractors. This is very important issue to address. How much of that cost reduction, 30%, will go to benefit the client, and how much will benefit the rest of the supply chain? So when we address this, I think we need to address all of these issues. I don't think there are straight answers here, but all together, the whole of the supply chain, we need to work collaboratively with the clients, especially government bodies as clients, to look at all these issues and what are the incentives for the whole of the stakeholders.
Yes, yes, indeed. And I quite agree with you about looking at the entire supply chain to see what would be the optimal cost reduction possible that also allows you to maximize profit for everybody within that circumstance. So indeed, a very challenging problem. Let me open the mic again for any other questions. Please open your mic and ask questions. Anybody can go ahead. I don't see any hands raised on my screen, maybe. All right, let me ask my next question then, while I think people are still thinking about questions. So you mentioned about sustainable construction and sustainable development initiatives that UK government is also pushing forward, and that brings to mind that through CIB, our effort is also on the 17 SDGs and how construction industry can perhaps collaborate and contribute towards those 17 SDGs. To my understanding, there are at least 7 or 8 that directly relate to the construction industry. But in your opinion and your thought, what are some of the barriers that you see for construction industry to contribute towards the sustainable development goals? And I think you did mention about the profit margins and the contracts and such. So if you could elaborate on that.
Yeah. Okay. And another good area actually. Now, I will give you an example. Decarbonization. Different countries at the moment, especially quite a number of European countries, they are looking at decarbonization of all sectors, but especially the cement industry. Cement industry, the biggest single polluter in the construction sector. And we initiated here in UAE with the government, with 2 ministries here, an initiative looking at decarbonization of the cement sector in UAE. And we are going to have the COP 28 in UAE later this year, actually. Different stakeholders are involved, and we hold workshops, many of them actually during the last few months. And what we started to feel that, okay, legislations, regulations that you have to abide by when the government come up with that. But I can see the lack of incentive of the cement manufacturers. So the government, many representatives of the government involved, it will create issues for the cement manufacturers. These issues need to be addressed. If they are not addressed properly from their points of view or understanding, then there will be an issue of working around. Even if there is a regulation, they will try to work around it. And in some European countries, actually, this is taking place at the moment. So same decarbonization of the cement industry. They come up with technically there are solutions, but these solutions will add up to the cost. And that is the issue. So some sustainable issues, there are empirical research trying to prove that some of these sustainable issues may reduce the cost, but many of them, they will add to the cost. So in this case, how are we going to address that additional cost will be a vital challenge. And if we expect one stakeholder is going to carry all of that, then we may face some challenges in the implementation even of regulations. But in Europe, in Scandinavian countries, they came up with pretty good solutions for cement factories, technically viable, but the commercial side of it is a challenge.
Yeah, thank you, Taha. Any other questions for Pasela? Well, I have one more question, but I want to make sure that people get a chance to jump in.
Yeah.
Don, any question? I know our CEO from CIB, Mr. Don Ward, is in the audience, and I'm putting him on the spot right now.
Yeah, no problem, Mark. Sorry, I struggled to find the right buttons there to unmute and unhide myself. Taha, great presentation, and thank you. And of course, we've discussed a number of these issues a number of times over recent years. But it is interesting to speculate to what extent the issues are the same in different parts of the world. And I wonder what lessons you've identified in the task group, in the working commission, that some of our attendees today might be interested to hear in terms of the extent to which innovation varies in those parts of the world.
Yeah, you see, in many countries during the last, especially a couple of decades, they developed innovation models. They developed, to support the process of innovation and creativity. And what I see is that some sectors, like the aerospace sector or the pharmaceutical sector, they are benefiting and maximizing their benefit out of these innovation models, and some of them sophisticated, some of them simple models. But I find it, and there are also reports actually from different UK universities looking at these comparisons between the different sectors. And unfortunately, the construction sector is lagging. Is lagging in identifying the suitable innovation models for them. Myself also involved in one government-funded research on innovation in procurement, and we looked at the different procurement systems, comparing traditional systems with more integrated project delivery systems, and actually we looked at different government infrastructure projects in the housing sector, as well as school sector, building schools for the future. That one 15 billion pounds project government program, and how benefited from the new procurement systems. It was running for quite some time during the Labour government, but after the Conservative took over, they stopped the project and reduced it a lot. But still, we managed to find good innovation in products and in processes in these type of infrastructure projects, but not incomparable with the other sectors, if you like, other industries, if you like. So we still need to do a lot in the construction industry, and this is across the world. I mean, it's not just in UK or in Middle East. This is across the world. And in Middle East, the driver is a bit different. Here, decisions are made, regulations are put forward, then everybody needs to follow, and that has got some advantages actually, and I can see the difference in infrastructure programs and projects, for example, between UAE and UK. Yeah, I need to take into consideration that the infrastructure in UK is it's far older compared to UAE, but still, when we look at the products, the processes, there is a difference. We need to always make these comparisons. For example, between the rail systems, there is a pretty new rail systems here in the Middle East compared to the oldest rail system in the world in UK. When we have HS2, which is quite recent, with all the new technologies and new innovations in design as well as in construction. So yeah, we can compare that, but unfortunately, with other industries, we have an issue. We are lagging behind.
Thank you, Taha. Well, we have actually exceeded our time, but if there is a pressing question that somebody has to ask, 30 seconds, please. Well, Taha, let me ask you a closing question, because I think that is important in everybody's mind. And for just a quick, short answer, if you could, and that is that, you know, with all this innovation that is required and all the changes and the ambitious goals that the governments are putting forward, which are really good, there will obviously be changes required in the way that we educate and train our students in the future. In your opinion, what do you think some of the areas, just at the broad level, that might need to be looked at?
Yeah, okay. I think some of these recent initiatives I touched upon, they are looking at not just the industry and implementation in the industry, but also how we also get that into our teaching and our training of new graduates, and in our teaching as well. And I think for the construction industry, there is robotics coming at different activities actually for construction sites. The automation of some of the processes and activities. The digitalization is also coming, especially in the Middle East here. Digitalization is coming also clearly. The 3D printing, maybe not all countries. They got some trial projects here in UAE. There are some big Chinese contractors actually started very big, massive housing projects in Saudi Arabia with 3D printing. Modular construction and off-site manufacturing is also, I think, is coming as well. So yeah, there are different types of modern processes and products as well.
Thank you, Professor Elhag. We have already exceeded our allocated time, so I really appreciate, first of all, you taking time. I know it is late evening for you in Dubai, so I appreciate that you're taking time on a Friday to give this very interesting seminar indeed. And I want to thank all of our audience as well for staying throughout the presentation and enjoying what Professor Elhag had to share. This is such an interesting topic that, you know, it begs more and more questions as we think through that. So indeed, thanks for raising all the issues, raising all the concerns, and bringing us the latest and greatest in innovation and construction. So thank you very much. Let's give Professor Elhag a big round of applause. You can now open your mic and give him a physical applause if you could. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity and inviting me for this CIB presidential webinar. I'm really pleased with that. Appreciate your invitation and the discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed. And thanks to all of you. Please stay tuned for the next week's equally interesting seminar. See you all. Thanks. Bye.